How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Infinite Sports. I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder, to give you my picks for the divisional round, second round of the NFL playoffs. After a very good Super Wild Card weekend, we are now down to 8 teams. So let's get into my picks for this weekend. Starting off with the Buffalo Bills traveling to the Mile High City to take on the Denver Broncos. Now, this is a rematch from the playoffs wild card round last year. That game was played in Buffalo. Bo Nix threw that touchdown pass to Troy Franklin. Broncos scored very quickly, and you thought, man, this is going to be a game. And then the Bills wiped the floor with them the rest of the way. I think this game is definitely going to be closer. Broncos, obviously the number 1 seed this time around. The Bills coming in as the 6th seed. Bills coming off of that win in Jacksonville. Josh Allen, a great game. With his performance, the Bills now find themselves in the divisional round once again. But they don't have the Kansas City Chiefs to worry about. And that's why I looked at the Jaguars-Bills game last week, and I said, I think whoever wins that game is going to go to the Super Bowl. And I feel like this is going to be the Bills' year to get to the Super Bowl. Now, Denver is going to have something to say about it because of their defense and their offense, especially late in games. They turn it up. And they've been a frustrating offense to watch all year, right? You know, against some inferior teams, they've kind of struggled with teams against the Raiders and, the Commanders. They went into overtime against them. They definitely have been frustrating at times. But Bo Nix and that offense, like I said, they've turned it up late in games, and they've gotten the job done. And they have 14 wins on the year for a reason. And it's also because they have a very good defense that can get after you. And obviously they got Patrick Surtain in the secondary. So this is going to be a test for the Bills coming in. And the Bills are banged up. They got a lot of guys hurt, both on the defensive side of the ball and on offense as well. They're going to be down 2 more wide receivers. No Shavers. He tore his ACL. And I think they both tore their ACL. Gabe Davis and Shavers. They both tore their ACL, so they're going to be out. So the Bills are kind of thin at wide receiver. And they couldn't really get the running game going last week against Jacksonville, which does have a very good run defense. But it's not going to get any easier going up against the Broncos. So it's going to be tough for James Cook to find some open holes there. So the Bills are going to have to try to get him to make more of an impact there. But Josh Allen is going to do his thing. And yeah, I mean, look, it's going to be a closer game, like I said. This Bills defense can be had. The Broncos, they did have a week off to prepare for this game. So we'll see how that plays out. But look, the Broncos are coming in with Bo Nix making his second career playoff start. How is he going to look? What kind of a running game are they going to have? How impactful can R.J. Harvey be in the running game? The Bills are susceptible to the run, so the Broncos can exploit that. With the pass catchers that they have at their disposal, the young pass catchers, and obviously the veteran Cortland Sutton. I was hoping for a bigger year out of Evan Ingram. I definitely have been disappointed by his lack of production this year. I thought he was really going to be a huge weapon for this offense, but that just has not happened there. But Bo Nix, is different. They played him last year, like I said. Different quarterback than Trevor Lawrence now. Bo Nix is definitely a guy that can. Trevor Lawrence could be mobile when he has to. Bo Nix is another guy that could definitely take off and run with it if he has to, and try and to extend plays. That's something that the Bills are going to have to watch out for. The defense was opportunistic last week for Buffalo. They got the 2 picks, the one early, and then they made a great play at the end, the tipped interception that ended the game. So, and look, the Bills' defense is going to have to step up. The offense is a little thin, like I said, but I just think with Josh Allen and the way he's playing right now, he's on a mission. And I just think the Bills are ultimately going to win this game, win a close battle. It's not going to be easy. It's not an easy place to play. And those fans, they've been waiting for a playoff game at their stadium for a long time, since the Super Bowl run back in 2015. And we're going to be passing the 10-year anniversary of the year that they won in 2015-2016 season. They won when the calendar flipped to 2016, which, again, it's unbelievable. That it was 10 years ago already. So yeah, it's going to be tough, but I think the Bills, they're battle tested. They've been in this spot before, and I just see them winning another close game. And the Broncos are going to make their fair share of plays with this offense. The Broncos can't afford to get off to a slow start because if they fall behind, and I know they've had comebacks, but I just feel like against the Bills, if Josh Allen and that offense is in a rhythm and the Broncos start falling behind, I don't think they're going to be able to come back. So that's kind of where my mindset is right now. But it's going to be a very good game. Looking forward to it. But I got the Bills winning a close contest here and moving on to the championship game. And then we got another grudge match. Third meeting between these two teams, these two NFC West teams, the San Francisco 49ers against the Seattle Seahawks. This is another fan base that's been waiting for a home playoff game for a little bit. The 12s are going to be rocking on Saturday night. Again, this is the third meeting between these two teams. Seahawks won a very low score. I mean, both games have been low scoring this season, but the most recent matchup, the Seahawks winning that game 13-3. They ran all over the 49ers defense, really wore them out. And the Seahawks defense, they shut down Brock Purdy in that offense. Brock Purdy was on a roll going into that game, and the Seahawks just shut him down, shut McCaffrey down. They could not get anything going. Now, they didn't have Trent Williams for that game. They are going to have him for this game. And I believe Ricky Pearsall is going to play. And also, Fred Warner had a chance to play in this game, but he was not activated. So if the 49ers do win this game, it's possible that Fred Warner could be activated for the NFC Championship game, which if the 49ers do get that far and make it past this week, that would be a huge pickup getting him back. But they got to get through tomorrow night or whenever you're listening to this. And it's going to be tough. Brock Purdy and the 49ers, well, Brock Purdy leading the charge as the 49ers quarterback has not lost in Seattle. He's, I believe, 4-0 in Seattle. And Brock Purdy has played very well in the playoffs. Brock Purdy is a big game quarterback. Okay, I think it's fair to say that. Playing in a Super Bowl, has been on deep playoff runs before. And especially with what the 49ers were able to pull off last week with Kittle going down, your top wide receivers are, well, you have Juwan Jennings, but you got Kendrick Bourne and Demarcus Robinson. Obviously, you have Christian McCaffrey, but the 49ers are not doing this with a loaded team right now. I mean, the team is injured. And I just still can't get over the fact that they were able to win that game last week because it's just they had so many injuries, and I just thought it was going to catch up to them in Philly, but that didn't happen. That did not happen. And now they're getting them a third time in a row. Now, we've seen what happens when Brock Purdy does have time. Makes some big time throws. And obviously, that just opens up this offense. If Brock Purdy is protected and, Christian McCaffrey finding some running lanes, which he wasn't really able to do last time. The 49ers, their offense has to perform better than what it did last time. Okay. I feel like the defense can keep them in it for as long as they can. Robert Saleh and that defense did a great job last week against the Eagles. The Eagles offense, some big plays here or there. I mean, the Eagles also shot themselves in the foot with some of the drops. But the 49ers also won the game because the defense bent, but it didn't break. And that's kind of what's going to have to happen here. Sam Darnold's actually a little banged up coming in, injured his side, but he is going to play. I believe Drew Lock got some of the first team reps, but Sam Darnold is going to play. I think that the biggest thing for me is how is Sam Darnold going to do now in his second career playoff start? I think that's the biggest thing here because obviously he wants to turn the page on last year's performance against the Rams in the first round of the playoffs. He wants to turn the page and put together a good performance. And can he do that? We'll see. And especially being banged up, that definitely can hamper you to an extent. But the 49ers defense is going to have their hands full, trying to stop this running game, keeping an eye on JSN, who is going to be heavily involved in this offense. And then, obviously, like I said, you're going to have to deal with the Seahawks defense on the other side, with Brock Purdy and those guys. So it's going to be tough for the 49ers to pull this off. But yeah, the biggest thing for me is how is Sam Darnold going to perform? Because if Sam Darnold turns the ball over and the 49ers capitalize off of those turnovers, that could be an issue. That could be an issue. And that's not to say that if the Seahawks are down, they can't come back. I mean, they proved that against the Rams, even though they had a couple of things go their way. But again, another example like the Broncos. If Sam Darnold falls down by a couple of scores, if the Seahawks are down by a couple of scores, it could be a tall order to try to come back. But we'll see. If the game goes any different than the previous meeting. And look, it took a Brock Purdy touchdown pass to Jake Tonjes to put them ahead, and then the Seahawks are driving down the field to take the lead. And then Nick Bosa sacks Sam Darnold. He loses the ball, and that's how the game ends. I mean, the Seahawks had a chance to sweep the season series, but that did not happen. They split, and like I said, this is the grudge match right here. The line is pretty big, though. It's 7.5. I think I am going to lean towards taking the points, but I do have the Seahawks advancing to the championship game. I just think they're going to do enough offensively. I think the running game is going to wear down this defense again, and that's not to say that Robert Saleh is not going to try to make adjustments so that doesn't happen. Like I said, Trent Williams playing and being back is huge because definitely missed him going up against this front of Seattle the last time they played against each other. So I think the 49ers, you'll see a better showing from them offensively, but I just think I got to lean towards Seattle here, being home. They got the better defense. They got the healthier team. Again, the biggest thing for me is Sam Darnold. How is he going to play in this game? And he's going up against a quarterback that has a ton of postseason experience, has won his fair share of playoff games. It's going to be interesting. But I think regardless of how this game goes, Kyle Shanahan is the coach of the year. I think there should be no end of discussion. He should be the coach of the year. Obviously, that ends after the regular season, but I mean, it's unbelievable that this team has made it this far. I don't even have this team making it to the playoffs. So the 49ers I didn't have making the playoffs this year. I didn't have Seattle making the playoffs this year. I didn't have the Patriots making the playoffs this year. So 3 of the 8 teams that are left had them all missing the playoffs. So, we'll see what happens. I mean, we could see a Super Bowl matchup of 2 teams that I did not have making the playoffs. Although I did have Seattle being in the mix, being a decent team. I didn't have them being the number 1 seed in the NFC. I just did not have that. But yeah, I think but back to the game, I think they win this game and they advance. And like I said, Kyle Shanahan, regardless of what happens this weekend, coach of the year. Coach of the year. Has to be. All right, so then we move to the games on Sunday. So we got the New England Patriots, speaking of, going up against the Houston Texans. Texans put on a clinic defensively. Oh, both defenses, both New England's defense, more so the Texans' defense, but New England's defense played very well last week against Justin Herbert and the Chargers. Got after Herbert. They forced turnovers as well. This is going to be a defensive battle once again, now with these 2 teams going at it. Nico Collins for the Texans, he has been ruled out for this game after suffering a concussion. So that's a big loss there. C.J. Stroud did not play well in the game against the Steelers. But like I said, the Texans' defense, how they performed, it didn't really matter. It didn't really matter. But here, like I talked about earlier in the week, they're going up against a quarterback in Drake May that if he's dealing with pressure, he could take off and run with it. Drake May can run with the football, and that could be a little bit of an issue. The Patriots, better offense than what the Texans were going up against last week. And like I said, if C.J. Stroud turns the ball over, unlike the Steelers, what they weren't able to do last week, I think New England's going to be able to do it, and that they're going to make them pay. And I think you could see the Patriots wearing down this Texans defense a little bit, maybe with their running game, if they can get Travion Henderson to get it going. Because Ramondre Stevenson has really gotten it going the last few weeks, and especially as a pass catcher too. He's been making an impact. They're going to have to deal with Stephon Diggs, former Texan for 1 year. So, yeah, look, and it's in New England. I'm leaning towards the Patriots here. Patriots, I got them going to the AFC Championship game, and they'd be taking on Buffalo. I just think C.J. Stroud now without Nico Collins, I just don't think this offense is going to be able to keep up. I think the Texans' defense will keep them in the game. I think it will be a close game for most of the matchup, but I think New England eventually pulls away. Similar to kind of what happened when they got the touchdown with Hunter Henry last week against the Chargers. I think they put together a late drive, a score that puts the game away. I just think Stroud struggles more in this game coming up with the Patriots defense. And like I said, if he turns the ball over, I think the Patriots are going to make him pay. So I got the Patriots winning that contest. And then we finally got the last game here on divisional round weekend, and that is between the Rams and the Bears. Two teams that had to pull off some comebacks, more so the Bears and their comeback, putting up 25 points, right? 25 points in the fourth quarter against the Packers to overcome that deficit. They were down 21-3 at one point. Unbelievable comeback. That's kind of turned the tides of the rivalry between them and the Packers. And then the Rams, that game, I mean, the Rams, to me, I thought were going to run away with it. And then Panthers kept it close. They even took the lead late. And then Matthew Stafford put together a game-winning drive through the go-ahead touchdown pass to Colby Parkinson, a very nice catch there. And the Rams escape. And I told you guys at the beginning of the week, don't really like how the Rams played last week, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. And this game is going to be very cold. All right, I think there's snow in the forecast. I mean, there was snow, then there's not snow. There's snow. Regardless, it's going to be very cold. And both teams are going to have to rely upon their running games. To me, the Bears, I mean, how many times are you going to fall behind? Because they're another team that they've fallen behind, and then, Caleb Williams in this offense, gets it going. I mean, what they did last week was very impressive. And I can't sit here and say, well, if they fall behind against the Rams, then they're out of it. No, because the Rams have blown leads this year. So I could see there's a scenario where that can happen, where the Rams have a big lead, and then the Bears, come back and they pull it off. So, it's going to be interesting how both quarterbacks deal with the weather. I think people are not giving Matthew Stafford enough credit. I think he can deal with the elements. Okay, I mean, look at what he played in last year against the Eagles. I mean, they had a chance to go down and win the game, got sacked, and then, that made the fourth down tougher, and, they came up short there. So I think, this offense is going to still be able to make plays, regardless of what the weather is. But you're going to have to rely on your running games, and both teams have good running games. I don't trust the Rams defense. I don't trust the Bears defense either. So, I think this is another game that's going to be close. I'm still going to lean towards the Rams here. The more experienced team. This is, again, I'm going to say it every week as long as they keep moving on. This is the team that I picked to win the Super Bowl, and I'm still going to stand 10 toes down that they're going to do that. It's just, I do worry about the defense. And Caleb Williams is another guy that can extend plays, and we saw that on full display last week against the Packers. But I'm still going to go with the Rams here, and I think Stafford in this offense, they make enough plays here. Hopefully they get Devontae Adams more involved now that he's another week back after missing some time with his hamstring injury. Puka is going to do his thing. Rely on Kyron Williams in this running game when you have to. The defense is going to have to come up and make stops, and they did do that last week. But now this is a different team you're going up against, and you're going up against a quarterback that's hot right now. So they're going to have their hands full with Caleb Williams, but I'm still going to side with the Rams that they get it done and they advance. So I got the Bills, I got the Seahawks, the Patriots, and the Rams advancing, which is what I had when I made my bracket. So we'll see what happens. But let me know what you guys think about this weekend. Who do you have winning these games? Let me know in the comments. Should be a very good football weekend. And then we have the national championship game on Monday as well. So as always, everybody, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the video, to the channel. Make sure to follow us on the social media platforms in the description below. And wherever you get your podcasts, you can follow us as well. Just go look up Infinite Sports, and you'll find us there. And as always, everybody, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, signing off. Have a good one, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Take care.